So I went to the range today to try to train with this new gun that I got, the Canik Mete. I guess it is called the Mete. It has slanted rear iron sights that I thought initially they were just designed for co-witnessing, but as it turns out from their website, it was actually designed for use with one arm, or with either people that were injured or debilitated because of injury or whatever, specifically in like training, but or with disabilities in mind. And I thought that was really cool because I do have charging handle setups on my Glock, and I was initially gonna try to look for another 19X specifically, with already having a charging handle set up in mind to adapt that. But whenever I saw this, I'd already had in my mind that I wanted to look at raised iron sights to see if I could use it to rack it back with specifically my hands, because the metal arm that I train with is a lot easier to train with because it's just a lot of harsh metal points that I can catch the charging handle on. But the bionics are, for me, my specific bionic setups are very difficult to train with, very painful to train with, just because it's hard to move the elbow. The wrists move unintendedly or unintentionally move whenever I don't want them to, right? And then the elbow is weak and it gives out sometimes, and it's very hard to train with bionics, and a lot of that's just because the people who made mine aren't very good, so it can be painful just to train with them. Lifting the elbow so many times takes it out of me, and I think that a lot of people don't understand that, and that's why I wanted to make a video where I was explaining what I was doing as I was doing it. Just lifting my elbow a bunch of times can be, let's say I get past like moving my elbow up and down 50 times in a day, I can get bruised from it just because my sock is such a bad fit, and it just can get really exhausting. So training with these arms is a lot harder than training with my metal arm, because just the mechanism that moves the elbow is rougher. And so I came to the range initially with the mindset that I was going to train mostly with my metal arm, but I left it. It wasn't in my truck, and I was like, oh dang it, I didn't want to turn around. And so today was like the first time I actually just trained with the bionic arm all day long, or not all day long, but just shot with the bionic setup. And it was something that I was like, I'm glad I did, because it turns out that it was like harder and in some ways better with the Mete, because I want people to see my setup, because some people asked last time if I was just pocket carrying. I was like, no, I have a holster back there. I just like training draws, because as you can see, my harnessing can get in the way, and some people like why I would not just put it on my thigh rig, and I was like, because I already get stopped a lot of places, so I don't want to design a system that would be, I don't like open carrying, but I just wouldn't want to put a gun there, just because I already get stopped a lot for looking at a place, traveling, especially anywhere outside of Texas. But so it took a while to set up how to shoot with both arms simultaneously. And like I said before, it could get it towards the end, because these shots were at the end of the day. It's so painful to lift my elbow so many times, and so I was so tired, but I just barely started to figure out the angles. And the Mete makes it easier, just because it's a little bit bigger, the full-size frame, as opposed to typically I'd be shooting a 19. I like smaller handguns, but recently I just wanted a full-body frame, because just of certain things going on. And so in order for me to use both arms, some people were like, why I don't just use my one arm, because I could slow myself down. I was like, it's long-term. And I think that people don't understand how much more stability you get just from 2 points of contact. Your whole body is just braces differently whenever you have 2 points of contact on a gun, even if it's just the tips of my fingers. It stabilizes me way more. And that's for me specifically. I got a lot of injuries in my one flesh hand, and I think that people don't realize that. Like I don't have all my ligaments, and I have nerve damage in my hand. So stabilizing the gun is already difficult because of the injuries to my flesh hand. So I almost always try to use both arms when I shoot, and it is difficult because it's like my mobility is limited in this arm, and so figuring out those angles was different. It's like painful and like lifting my elbow at the end, but I figured it out towards the end, where I was just like, okay, so I have to move my elbow first, and I could draw and shoot easily with one arm, much faster than without using a prosthetic. But I want to use my prosthetic because it's just more stable and more accurate whenever I stabilize with my prosthetic side. And so it's something I worked on today, and I was like so happy that I did end up not bringing my metal arm, because it's way easier for me to move it and train with it because it's so a better fit and more mobile, and there's just more points for me to catch either the Mete or the charging handle on my Glock with, because it's really like my tackle arm. It's set up for shooting and training and lifting weights and stuff like that. And this setup is not. So I was like, okay, like, the hands, they're kind of fragile, and like the wrist, it gets fragile. So like, repeated iron to aluminum contact, like my gun on my bionic hand, like it can wear down my hand. And then like I actually broke a little part of my finger training, just dry firing last week with the Mete. And I thought that was funny because I was like, it's like, okay, people like why I don't use an RMR on my guns. I was like, because you realize like I'm training with this and I really want to be able to train with it. I would be, training with an RMR $300 little sight, destroying it every time I try to rack it back. So I prefer the iron sights or a charging handle because I don't feel bad about messing up a charging handle or an iron sights with the metal to metal contact on my hand. And yeah, so like I feel like just for the first time ever training with this system, I feel like I felt happy about how it ended up turning out. And I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of the end of the training using both arms at the same time, shooting with the Canik Mete and the prosthetic arm. Thank you so much for all the support here, and I really appreciate all the love and all the questions about everything.